This is Leadership in the Times of VUCA, a podcast series where we go beyond models and frameworks and explore the real human side of leadership. I'm your host Shweta, and in each episode, we sit down with leaders who've navigated change, understood ambiguity, and the complexities of people. Today, on our very first episode, I have with me someone who's built high-performing teams across continents, from India to the Philippines to Europe, a people-centric, authentic leader, and Asia CEO 2025 awardee. Please welcome Sunil Kumar.
Welcome, Sunil, to the first episode of the podcast series.
Oh, it is my pleasure, Shweta. Thank you very much for choosing me as the first speaker.
Sunil, tell us more about you.
Come from a very humble background, had no family business to look forward to, had no empire, so to say. I think the only path to success went through education. And fortunately or unfortunately, I was a very average kid. The only way to really succeed during those times in the early 90s and late 80s was either you're an engineer, or you could crack a medical exam, or you were a chartered accountant, or you could just get into Army through MBA or CDS. My first leadership lesson was taught to me when I was doing my MBA. This was my first year, so we got a professor who actually taught me a few lessons that I did not realize were important back then. But then as I continued my journey, I realized that what I learned from him during that time is what is the building block for my leadership style today. You've read so much about leadership styles, you've read so much about organizational behavior, you've read so much about several different leaders and their styles, etc. But when you're actually on the first job is when the rubber hits the road. And this was with a logistics company where I was a territory manager, and I had a job to go convert new sales. I had a small team, and we had to go and make new clients, 45 degrees of heat or freezing cold. We were driving hundreds of kilometers every day, making new connections. One thing I learned very early in life in sales was that you have to have the ability to strike a connection, have to have the ability to connect very quickly.
I recall, when we first spoke about your first statement, talking about how you understood the difference between a winning mindset and losing mindset.
Yeah.
I would want to touch upon that.
So, when you're out there in the field, there's no one watching you. When you're doing your job, people in the office believe that you're out and you are working, so you have two choices to make. You can go to a good, coffee shop, sit down there all day and not do much, or the other thing is that you be disciplined and you focus on your job and get the job done. So, my belief is that you become a leader or a manager when you don't need one. Which means that you're doing the right thing even when no one's watching.
So tell us about your first move to the Philippines. How was it? Was it the first time you moved out of country?
I think my first pivotal point on becoming a global leader was when I moved out of the country. So that's when I realized that there are different styles, there are different cultures, there are different social backgrounds, and you need to adapt and adopt a different style to work with different nationalities. So you have to be very democratic. You have to really engage with them, understand what takes them. Fun at work was so unheard of back in India in the 80s or early 90s. If you were having fun at work, you would not take it seriously. You were considered not being serious. But when I came to this country, it was fun at work. So I think that was an eye-opener. When you move to a different culture, you could have the conviction in your thought, have a vision, build a vision together with your teams, have them buy into that vision, inspire them instead of intimidate them, and they work wonders. I mean, the results are outstanding.
And I think we missed another 2 points here. The move from traditional industries to this.
Yes, that was a big one. When you come to a multinational company, you realize that leadership is not just about directing people towards a certain objective. My leadership style had to change immediately from a more authoritative to a more democratic, to a more coach kind of a leader or a servant leader. Here, it was more inspiring, engaging, taking people along, making a vision, having them buy into that vision, achieve a common goal. It was more us rather than me.
Moving from the result only to a more inclusive and
Inclusive, correct. Absolutely.
Tell us about the third pivotal point that you were talking about.
Yeah, it was very interesting. In fact, I would say that was the most important and the significant change in my professional career. So this is when I was moved from Philippines to York. So back in the Philippines, I still had, a big setup. I had an ecosystem, right? I had a boss to go up to. I had colleagues to discuss things with. But when I moved to York, although it was a smaller team, but the role was very, very rich, very, very different. Now, I was actually consider this as you're in a smaller island with your umbilical cord cut off from the mothership. So you're basically on your own. When I was in Europe, two significant changes happened. So first it was COVID, right? The world had never dealt with it. I had never dealt with it. It was a pandemic all of a sudden. So my goal post shifted from operational metrics to health and safety. My goal shifted from customer centricity to people centricity. All of a sudden, it was a decision. It was a life and death situation for our employees. Do I call them to work or do I not call them to work? Do we send them to work from home? So that was a big, big shift in the way we were operating. And then the second, COVID was almost done. The Ukraine and Russia war started. And while the war had Europe, and while the war had very less impact on Europe per se, but when the war began, you did not know what to expect. You did not know what could come and hit you. You did not know whether you'd have influx of migrants. You did not know whether people will feel secure and they'll come to office or not. So that's another, So when I was in the Philippines, I was immune to all of this. I was sort of agnostic to all that was happening outside of my small domains. But the moment I moved to Europe, the whole world sort of opened up, and I became very vulnerable because you had to be accountable for everything that happened in the region. Even if there was a little fire, you were accountable. If somebody fell sick, you were accountable. You were accountable for everything, and that was a very, very very significant change and a pivotal point in the way I developed as a leader.
Tell me more also about humbleness, how that shapes you.
I call it the cycle of leadership. When we are early in our career and we get the first leadership assignment, there's a lot of pride, right? So you move, you move, then you're very happy. You're now bossing around with people, right? So there's a lot of pride you're taking in that first leadership assignment. From there, you continue to grow. You do a good job, you continue to grow further. So pride then sometimes can convert to arrogance because you've achieved so much. You're the one, you're the chosen one, and you have all these skills, and you have these beliefs, in your mind that you're one of the best and whatnot. And you indeed are, perhaps, because that's why you're where you are. But then as you grow and as you learn, that pride to arrogance that inverts to humility, because you realize that, oh my God, no matter how much big of a leader you are, you're still a very small fish in this larger 7.5 billion people pond, and that's where the learning begins. When you move from your pride to arrogance to your humility, is when you realize that there's so much more to learn, and that's where your journey begins. So you basically take another journey from there on, because then you keep becoming more and more humble.
But actually, I had a taste of that humility from you, humbleness in you when you just as a passing sentence, you and you told me, oh yeah, last week I got the Asia CEO 2025 award, and like I just realized, look at the humbleness of this medal.
The more you achieve, the more you realize that your achievements are actually not your achievements. Your achievements are actually the achievements of the team that's standing behind you, and you're nothing without the team, right? So I don't think any of those awards that you win are my awards, and I've done anything to get those, but I think it's a huge amount of effort that the team makes. And yes, you are, definitely guiding the team, you're definitely leading the team, but a lot of times we learn from the team, because most of these people are much younger than I am. And they're so tech savvy, they know things, they write very differently, they use verbiage which I've never even heard of, and they're so articulate, they're so presentable, they're so tech savvy. They know, the new technologies that are coming in the market. They understand AI far better than us. They understand the application of digital and AI far better than us. So these, youngsters are just amazing. And I have, so again, I've reached a point where I've become humble, because when I look at them, there's so much more to learn. One of the traits of being a good leader is the ability to unlearn and learn new things. We have to be very, very nimble. We have to unlearn our past ways of doing things. We have to start thinking human, and have to start thinking about human plus machine, as we go along. So I think the unlearning and the learning is one of the most critical skills we have to, develop as leaders.
Tell us more about this. And what is the importance of human and leadership?
As a leader, and I was talking to one of my colleagues a few days ago, and he said, look, we don't go to happy calls. We don't get invited to calls where customers are happy and they want to appreciate us. And we get invited to calls as leaders. We get invited to calls where there's something wrong. There's always an escalation. Something is not working right. And hence, they've invited us and they want us to do something right. So we're always dealing with either a crisis or something really bad, or an escalation, or something that's not working fine. So we're always in a firefighting mode, so to say. As I'm speaking to you right now, there's so many things that I am dealing with and they're going on in my mind, which I'm trying to solve. But I have to be in the moment. I have to make sure that the teams don't feel that pressure. I don't let that pressure down. I retain the pressure at my end, and I, show my sort of jovial side to them, just to let the pressure off a little bit. But at the same time, I have focus on what we have to achieve together as teams. So I think that style is just to make sure that I let the pressure off. There are two ways of dealing with it. One is that you get the pressure and you just pass it on down, and you speak very well.
And this is where even the modern leadership comes into play, where you provide so much inclusivity, so much of psychological safety, letting people know that it is okay to take risks, it is okay to fail, because failure is not end of the story. You learn, it's a learning stepping stones, and that's what we do.
I have failed more as a leader than I have succeeded, and that's what makes you a leader. You learn, and then you develop, yeah?
If you were to, Sunil, simplify modern leadership, especially in the present scenarios of VUCA in particular, and ambiguity, tell us, what are the 4 things that you would want to talk about?
Yeah, so I think that first and foremost, as leaders, we have to have the ability to see and manage ambiguity. The world will always be ambiguous, right? Then something or the other will always keep happening. Sometimes it's geopolitics, sometimes it's wars, sometimes it's inflation, sometimes it's COVID, sometimes it's just microchips not coming in time and delaying the full, production cycle, etc. So there'd always be ambiguity in the system. So the faster you're able to respond to that ambiguity, the faster you're able to address that ambiguity and and the agility with which you deal with that ambiguity is, I think, the first trait we have to learn as leaders, because everything else you can learn, right? But learning to deal with ambiguities, I think, the first thing we have to develop as leaders. The second is your ability to change and adapt to change, and ability to drive change. Because change is no more an event. It's not like a beta software that you're launching. The world is in beta mode now. There is no permanent version. It's always evolving. Like every day we're evolving. So you have to be able to make change very, very quickly. You have to be nimble. You have to be able to drive the change within the teams, because today it's AI, tomorrow it's agentic AI, and day after tomorrow it's going to be all non-human, what have you. So you have to be able to sort of drive that change and be one. The third is, it's all about people. For a manager, it may be about resources, but if you want to become a leader from a manager, it's all about people. People are the ones who drive results field. They are the ones who who make products field. They are the ones who give experience to your customers. So it's all about people. If you keep your people happy, if you keep their people engaged, if they are sort of chasing the same dream as you are, if they are in sync with your vision, and if they are part of your driving force towards that vision, you achieve your results. So I think it's about people. The fourth is, just like change is important, I think curiosity is pretty important as well. Unless we are ready to learn and unlearn continuously, we're not going to be successful as leaders. And what I mean by that is that the world is changing rapidly, like we were discussing, and hence being curious to learn about change, being curious to learn about new technology is very, very important. I keep learning from my son every day about new technology. In fact, he was the one who introduced ChatGPT to me, so he keeps me up to date on technology. So you need to continue to learn and unlearn, and be curious generally for everything. And by the way, everything we achieve in our operations or in our lives is through curiosity. Unless you are curious, you're not getting to the answer. You're not getting to where you want to go. So we have those are the four things I would say.
So good to hear so much about you, Sunil. This is the actual human side of leadership that we wanted to bring. We've always spoken about leadership is about models. Leadership is about how important it is for you to take the right decision. Nobody sees the human side of it. I'm so glad that you're able to bring that human side to it.
That's fantastic.
And talking about the human side, tell me about your favorite books.
Oh, well, I'm not an avid reader, but I do read at least one book every month. I should be doing a lot more. But by far the book that has made the most impact on me is a book about change. It's called Who Moved My Cheese. I'm sure you have heard of that book. And that book it's a very small, book. It's like a 1 hour read, but the profound impact it has made on me. So every time I have a situation, whether it's personal, professional, advent of AI, for example, a lot of us today are not seeing the cheese moving, because a lot of these things that we do today, which are rudimentary day-to-day activities, are going to be replaced by AI agents, right? So it's the cheese is moving, and we're not seeing the cheese moving. And so at the same time, with our professional lives every day, we sometimes forget to focus on our personal health. So our personal health cheese is moving, and we gotta see that and make sure that we smell that it's moving and we fix it. So that book has had a profound impact on me, and there are several others that I've read which have, but this one by far stands out.
And you also spoke of extreme leadership.
Oh yes, in fact, Extreme Leadership is another of my favorite books, because it teaches you how you deal with ambiguous situations. No matter how much you practice, how much you try, how much you rehearse, things are going to change in the last minute. Plans are going to be, revamped. They have to be redone. strategies have to change, and it talks about your ability to do changes with agility and still stay on track, still stay focused on your goal, still get things done. How to work as a team even in situations which are not very clear and which are constantly changing. And it's a very high pressure environment. So when the Navy SEALs actually go and do an operation, it's not like they're going in, taking a walk in the park. It's always a very stressful situation. They're going to achieve something that is very, very difficult, extract somebody, or it's a hijack situation or whatnot. So they're always in a very, very stressful situation, mostly ambiguous. They don't know how the next move is going to be, but they still have a plan. They stick to their plan, change the plan on the go, and the entire team is in sync to achieve that one final objective. I think that book has made another very, very big.
So pretty much akin to in corporate world, appeasing without safety net.
Yes, exactly, absolutely, and especially when you know that you're the one who doesn't have any support coming from anywhere else, and you're the one who has to make things happen. The leadership that you develop, the courage and the conviction you develop at that point in time is a lot different than when you're sitting and learning leadership in a classroom setup through a management consultancy, which is trying to give you an impact those leadership skills. Very, very different.
Wonderful. And this brings me to the next question. Tell me the importance of mentors in the journey of becoming a leader that leads with a human angle.
Yeah. So there are, in my life, at least, and sure for most of us would be true, in my life, we've had some assigned mentors and some unassigned mentors that you secretly admire and follow. And then there are some accidental mentors that, we come across. So one of the accidental mentors, in my life, for example, was when I was very, very young. I was like 8 years old, and we have recently moved to Delhi. My father was, this big engineer, and he was, very senior. He was the boss, and I was acting like a spoiled boss kid, and I was teaching this painter who was painting our house, and I was telling him, you left some there, you left some there, and you left some there. He was speaking to vernacular, so he comes down and he tells me, if I spoil my hand just because it's a government job, I will not be able to get a private job. And I was 8 years old. I got totally, scared because this big man coming and talking to me. I did not understand anything he said. 25 years later, I realized what he was basically saying was, if I make my behavior bad because it's a government job, that behavior will become an attitude, and then my attitude will not let me get any further growth in my career. So imagine, at an 8-year-old boy learning this from uneducated blue-collar worker who probably never even went to school ever, but he knew that his behavior builds attitude, and attitude builds careers or fortunes. And I learned that from him, but I realized it. I connected those dots 25 years later. So accidental mentor for me. At the same time, then you go to college and you have a lot of your professors who become your sort of appointed mentors. You join a company, you're given an appointed mentor, but then you secretly start admiring some leaders and they become your mentors, even you're not talking to them on a day-to-day basis. So they become your mentors. And I have so many names I can drop here, and I don't want to do that because I will miss out on a few, and I go over the entire.
It's so true that mentors don't come with wearing crowns. So mentors are almost everywhere.
Exactly.
Tell me about reverse mentoring. You touched upon the fact that you're learning so much from the youngsters. Tell us in 30 seconds in terms of reverse mentoring.
When you say reverse mentoring means, what am I learning from them or what am I teaching them?
No, what you're learning from them, the youngsters. Typically we've seen mentors who are in the year, but there are youngsters who are teaching us so much.
It's phenomenal that I am learning more from my younger mentors than I learned from my professors and my earlier mentors. It's because the pace of technology is so rapid that it's very difficult for us to catch up, with technology, with changing times. So these young mentors that I have, whether it's my son or whether it's, our colleagues at work, they are so attuned with latest technology. They are so in tune with the world affairs. When I was a 12-year-old, I did not even know what existed outside of New Delhi. My son today can count all the 190 countries and their capitals and their currencies and their flags and whatnot. So imagine the amount of information that is available to them and the amount of information they consume on a day-to-day basis. It's just unbelievable how much they learn at such a young age. So we need to learn from them all day.
So what I'm hearing is your reverse mentors teaching neuroplasticity.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Talking about neuroplasticity, let's come to a very important aspect,
Sure.
AI. How is leadership changing in the advent of AI, especially given the fact that AI now for leaders is no longer in the deployment phase, it is in the ROI phase,
Sure.
where leaders are expected to give return on investments on AI.
Okay.
Tell me your relationship with AI as a leader.
So look, AI is here. It's already here. It's already making an impact on a day-to-day basis. So it's not something that will happen in the next few months or a few years. So it's already here. And hence, our responsibility as leaders is also immense, because we have to not only learn from our younger leaders, but also teach them how to sort of imbibe this change, because we have seen change in our lives, but they have not seen much change. Because come to think of it, most of the technology that our youngsters are consuming today was actually developed by our generation. And they are now consuming it and extrapolating it and making it better on a day-to-day basis. But we have seen a lot of change. They are not seeing change, they're seeing technology, but they're not seeing change. So if we get together with our experience of change and their experience of technology, we can really, do wonders. But coming back to your question, so look, we, as leaders, we need to be very nimble about how we adapt to the new ways of working. We believe that, domain knowledge, whether it is in any area, whether it's in banking or medical field, or you being a dentist or you being a doctor, your domain knowledge is always going to be relevant. What AI will do is it will only enhance the impact of your domain knowledge on the results you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
Today, there was a lot of FOMO in the last few months. There was a lot of FOMO. Everybody wanted to do something on AI. So there was a lot of deployment that happened.
Enough.
But we haven't seen the ROI as much as we thought yet.
Yeah.
But the ROI is going to come. It's not like it's not going to come. It's just taking a little bit of time. And the reason it's taking time is because we are probably not as nimble, not as agile in managing that change. But when that change gets managed over the next few months, you will see a lot of ROI will also start coming in. So yes, times are changing. We need to be, very nimble as leaders to adapt to that.
So as leaders, there is one question around how AI is impacting the human trust. Leadership is built on trust. Now with AI, there's a question around accountability. Who bears the actual accountability or the ultimate accountability of a decision?
Right.
As leaders, how does that impact? AI's impact on human trust and the shifts in accountabilities which are happening in organizations due to AI.
I give you an example. We were riding in a autonomous Tesla one day, being driven by a driver. The car was driving itself, but the driver was there on the seat, and the car actually stopped short of the traffic light. So my son just made a remark, "Oh my God, the car just stopped short, and it's it's not a good car." And the driver said, "No, it's a good car. I'm the one responsible. I should have made sure the car didn't stop short." So, irrespective of what technology or machine you're using, we, the operators, are accountable. We're the ones teaching AI how to do things. The machine is learning on its own, but it's our accountability. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that the output is thoroughly checked. We are always in control of what the machine or AI produce, because eventually accountability is always going to be ours. It's not going to be the machine.
So true. Thank you so much, Sunil, for helping us understand these things. And I'm definitely gonna read Extreme Leadership. Thank you so much, Sunil, for giving us our time. The one thing that I'm gonna take away from today's podcast is that you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to be heard. We need to learn to start becoming leaders by understanding what is the meaning of ambiguity, what is the meaning of managing change, what exactly does it mean to put our people first, and of course, ability to unlearn and relearn. Thank you so much, Sunil, for doing that. If you have a particular takeaway from it, please feel free to share this podcast with the people who aspire to become future leaders or with the present leaders. And of course, if you have any questions with me or Sunil, feel free to drop a question in the comment section.